What is going on, everybody? Back again today to talk about some great nerdy news. And I know I'm late to the game on this, just like I am with everything these days. I've started my new job that I mentioned in a previous video, and it is tough. Uh, I don't have a lot of time to make videos, but I'm here now, and I want to talk about this stuff. So, following the announcement that Henry Cavill is being let go as Superman again, Henry set the nerdy world on fire by making the announcement that he is currently in talks with Amazon. Actually, it might be even further than just he's talking with Amazon. If you read the actual announcement, and you can find it online, it sounds like he's already cut a deal with Amazon to bring us a live action Warhammer 40,000. I don't know if it's going to be movie series, TV series. All I know is it's going to be a movie. It's going to be either movies and or TV. It's going to be live action, and it's going to be Warhammer 40,000. For those of you who don't know what Warhammer 40,000 is, it is a science fantasy fictional universe that it's ultimately stems from this tabletop game. It's kind of like if you saw people playing it, you would kind of at first glance, if you're not familiar with this kind of stuff, at first glance, you would kind of think that they're playing something like Dungeons and Dragons. Not quite. It's more like it's just the combat. There's no role playing, there's no story. It's just people have these little armies of these little miniature figurines, and there's rules to the game, and you measure shit with a tape measure, and you roll dice, and yeah, and it's a war game. It's a tabletop war game. That's how it originally started. But then Games Workshop, the company that created it, they kind of branched it out. They started making, having authors write novels that are set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. And since then, the lore and the backstory and the mythos of Warhammer 40,000 has expanded so much. There is over 10,000 fictional years worth of content in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I'm going to say that again. With all of the books and the video games and everything so far that has been created for the Warhammer 40,000 universe, there is over 10,000 years of fictional history and lore. That's a lot. And the cool thing about it is the vast majority of it is good and entertaining. You would normally, when you think of something with that much content, you're like, man, a lot of this has got to be just shitty fluff. And that, don't get me wrong, that definitely exists. That's there. But the vast majority of it, I would say, is quality. Especially if you kind of get into Warhammer 40,000, you get to know what it is, and it appeals to you, then you're obviously gonna enjoy more of it than someone else. It is definitely a niche thing, or at least it always has been, and it's not for everyone. It's very grim, very dark, very violent, graphically violent, gory. The tagline for Warhammer 40,000 is "In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war." That's this thing's whole shtick, or at least it was up until like 5 years ago. I'm going to be doing a video here in the very near future, kind of giving a little bit of like an intro explanation into Warhammer 40,000 for people who are like want to know more about it. And then I'm also going to do a video on what I think are some of the best ways to get into Warhammer 40,000 if you want to. So keep a lookout for those. But for now, just suffice it to say that it's not for everyone. It isn't. There are plenty of other YouTube channels out there that are strictly like the creators. The channel is dedicated to Warhammer 40,000 content. There's channels for the tabletop game. There's channels where they talk about the lore. The knowledge is out there. My advice would be don't get sucked down a rabbit hole and end up spending your entire day in front of a video screen just absorbing 40K lore. Because if you do that, you're going to get overwhelmed very quickly and you're going to be like, this isn't for me. There's just too much here. I mean, pick a video, watch it, don't watch anything else the rest of the day. Learn a little bits at a time. But yeah, I'm excited that this is happening. I'm so excited that I delved right back into Warhammer 40K. Like I've always had a very love-hate relationship with Warhammer 40K, but now I've just decided, you know what, I'm not going to resist anymore. So I bought new books. I got the Dark Imperium trilogy, which is, like I was saying, up until about 5 years ago, the story of Warhammer 40,000 is just these various factions are all just constantly warring with one another. About 5 years ago, they released the Dark Imperium, the first book in the Dark Imperium trilogy, and this is the first like chunk where they've actually moved the story forward. And then here I have what is kind of thought of as like some of the very beginning of Warhammer 40,000. Like if you truly wanted to start at the beginning, you would start with what's known as the Horus Heresy. So back in the day, I read the first book that you're supposed to read in the Heresy, Horus Rising. I got about halfway through it and then I stopped because I wanted to read the Space Wolves Omnibus. But since then, I bought False Gods, Galaxy in Flames, and Horus Rising is on its way in the mail. I'm gonna get through these for the sure this time. Um, I've been doing my research based on what other like die-hard Warhammer 40,000 fans have said and how they feel about the Horus Heresy book series. And I'm going to be putting together a video on like basically a Horus Heresy book series essentials list because there are over 50 books in that series, and not all of them are great from what I can tell. Also, when I went to Barnes and Noble to look for books, I discovered that they're going to be wrapping up the Horus Heresy book series in the future, somewhat here in the near future, uh, with the Siege of Terra subseries. So I bought the first 3 books in the Siege of Terra series. I plan on reading those. And then, just because I had to, I started buying the Joy Toy Warhammer 40K figures. So this is Ragnar Blackmane. It's probably not showing up very well on this camera. I got Ragnar. I've got 3 Primaris Ultramarine Reavers. I've got 2 Black Legion Chaos Marines, and on the way in the mail is an Ultramarines Primaris Lieutenant, which is, they just call him a Primaris Lieutenant. I forget what name they gave him in the description, but it's definitely meant to be Lieutenant Titus from the Space Marine games. So I got him on the way in the mail. He should be showing up here Friday. I've never gotten into the tabletop game, and that's simply a money thing, a money and time thing. I like the lore, I like the universe, I like the story behind it, and I am a toy collector. But for those of you who don't know, the little miniature figurines that you use to play the tabletop game, they come in a box, and they are not put together. They're like little models. You have to like pop them out of their frames and put them together. And then they're also unpainted, so you have to paint them yourself. And I am not that good of a painter, and I don't have the time to get that good. So these, the figures that I'm buying, they kind of scratch that itch. Yeah. So that's my relationship with Warhammer 40K, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited that this is going to happen. I don't expect to see it for a long time, like on Amazon. I can remember it was either very early 2018 or very late 2017 when they announced Amazon was going to do a Lord of the Rings show. And we got it here towards the end of 2022. So 5 years. It took them 5 years to get that out. From the time it was initially announced to like being able to watch it, it was 5 years. So if this goes down, we're looking at seeing it in probably 2027 at the earliest. I'm probably thinking more like 2028. So we've got some time. Uh, but I'm looking forward to it regardless. Now, I mentioned how Warhammer 40,000 is not for everyone, and it's true. It's not. I've had other friends of mine that I've tried to get into it. They didn't want anything to do with it. I had ex-girlfriends that I tried to like show them even some of my more nerdy ex-girlfriends, I tried to like show them, like get them interested in it, wanted nothing to do with it. because of just how grim and dark and violent it is. It's just not everyone's cup of tea. It's not politically correct at all. And that's one of the concerns I do have going into this, especially with the day and age we're living in, where like let's take what is often they constantly say that Warhammer there are no good guys in Warhammer 40,000. There are not. There are no good guys in Warhammer 40,000. And that's true for the most part, especially from a tabletop gaming perspective. But if you're going to tell a story, you have to have a protagonist. So whoever the protagonist is going to end up being kind of looking like the good guy. And when it comes to the 40K book series, there are books about the humans, the human faction, the Imperium of Man. There are books about the orcs. There are books about the Eldar. And in each of those books, a different faction is portrayed as the protagonist. So when we talk about this film or TV franchise that Henry Cavill is going to be creating with Amazon, you have to understand that like it's going to have a narrative. It cannot just be battles. All right, it has to have a narrative. And since it's going to be a narrative, it's going to have a protagonist. There's been a lot of debate online about where they should start. Like if they're going to do this, where should they start with Warhammer 40K? Should they start post-heresy, or should they start with the Horus Heresy? And for those of you who don't know what the Horus Heresy is, I'm sorry, but check it. Stay tuned for my video coming up explaining that. Just know for this video, if you were to try and get into Warhammer 40,000 lore by reading the books, it would probably be a good idea for you to start with the Horus Heresy, at least some of it. That's probably the best jumping on point. So it's also the part of Warhammer 40K lore that has the most of a story. Like I said, between the Horus Heresy and up to about 5 years ago in 2016, there wasn't really much of a real plot to Warhammer 40,000. It was just stories of wars. It was just stories of these different factions engaging in endless amounts of war with each other. And then back in 2016, they decided let's do something to kind of move the narrative forward, and they did. So if they start post heresy, it's just going to be almost like this anthology film series or anthology TV series, where it's just battles and wars. And I mean that could be kind of interesting, I guess, if you do like a almost kind of like an American Horror Story kind of TV show where each season of the show is from the perspective of a different faction, and they're on a different planet or a different area in the galaxy, and they're engaged in a different conflict with another faction. That could be somewhat entertaining. I'd probably still watch that. However, like having thought about it over the past couple of weeks, my hope is that they start with the Horus Heresy. That is where I would like to see it start. As a fan of the lore and the mythos, first and foremost, that is where I would like to see it start. Now, regardless of where they start it, like I said, Warhammer 40,000 is not politically correct at all. Just to give you a brief rundown of some of the factions, like this guy, Ragnar Blackmane, he is a Space Marine of the Space Wolves chapter. The Space Wolves are basically space Vikings, and it's just murder and carnage, and they just kill shit. They kill the enemies of the Imperium. That's all they live for. Every once in a while between missions, they like to stop and get drunk on this special ale that they make because they're like genetically modified super soldiers. It's hard for them to get drunk. But other than that, they're just murdering the shit out of the enemies of the Imperium. The Imperium of Man overall, the human faction in Warhammer 40,000, prior to the Horus Heresy, they were a faction that was atheist and colonizing. They believe like we are the dominant species of the galaxy. We're entitled to everything. Fuck all the other races and aliens and factions. We're gonna come. We're gonna murder you. We're gonna take your fucking planets. And that's by and large that's most of the factions. I think with the exception maybe of the Tau. And then post heresy, after the Horus Heresy, the human faction, the Imperium of Man, they become this ultra-religious, zealotous, xenophobic, oppressive, totalitarian government that's just like Like they have an organization called the Inquisition, and their whole job is to just hunt down people that they suspect, not know, suspect are heretics and fucking murder them. At the very least, take them captive, kidnap them, abduct them, and subject them to horrifying amounts of torture to get them to confess. And then once they confess, they fucking murder them. The god that the Imperium worships is a he's basically on a life support system, and in order to sustain that life support system, the Imperium has to sacrifice 1,000 psychic human beings every single day. So they're just constantly like out in the galaxy looking for psychers, looking for human psychics, and most of them are just getting rounded up so that they could be sacrificed to keep the emperor, the god that they worship, on life support. This is like I said, this is a very grim, very dark, very politically incorrect fandom. And in the day and age we're living in, I highly suspect that there are going to be, I don't even suspect, I know, there are going to be people over at Amazon who are assigned to work on this project, and they're going to have problems with it. And they are going to want to tamper with it and change shit to make it more politically correct. Don't fucking do that. Let it be what it is. Let the chips fall. But what if we leave it alone and we just make it the way it is, and it's politically incorrect, and there's shit like xenophobia and murder and torture and religious zealotous worship and all this terrible shit that we as a real human species are trying to get away from. What if we put all that negative, nasty shit in the show, and then people still like the show? Won't we be spreading that stuff? Don't think about that. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And chances are, if you're working for Amazon making TV shows and movies, you're not either. So don't worry about that shit. That's not your job. Just fucking make the show or make the movies and stay loyal and true to the source material. Don't worry about that shit. Your job is to not safeguard humanity. Your job is to make movies and TV shows. Just do your job. Just do your job. There are other people out there in the world whose job it is to safeguard humanity. They will worry about that shit. You just make your movies and your TV shows. So, just wanted to put that out there, that little disclaimer, because I am slightly worried. I've seen it slowly happen a little bit in the Warhammer 40K fandom. There was a trailer, a CGI animated trailer for I think like a mobile game that was going to be coming out, and in the trailer there is a Sister of Battle, the Adeptus Sororita. She's fighting some Necrons, and then an Ultramarine, a Primaris Ultramarine, shows up to help her. And at some point during the fight in this trailer, the Primaris Ultramarine's helmet gets knocked off, and you see his face. And I could not help but feel it's like that Ultramarine is way too clean and pretty. Like he's got no scarring, great facial, like his great skin complexion, like Chad hair. He looks way too just man pretty for a fucking Space Marine. And I think that's Games Workshop and the people over there and their marketing team and whatnot going, hey guys, look, like I know that the whole central theme of Warhammer 40,000 is grim dark shit, but I think we might need to dial it back if we ever want to expand this fandom. And I get that, but let's put it this way. If you've got the grim, dark, graphic, violent, horrible nature of Warhammer 40K dialed up to a 10, which is pretty much what it is, it's dialed up to a 10, and you're thinking about dialing it back a little bit to make it just a little more accessible to other people, I wouldn't dial it, this is all just metaphorical, but I wouldn't dial it back to more than like an 8. Okay? And even that's me being gracious. You know, don't no more than an 8. All right? It is the way it is, and people like it the way it is. And honestly, I think if you just make the show or the movies the way, like, and stay true and loyal to the source material, I think that you will find it is enjoyed by most people. And I say that because in my experience trying to get other newer people into Warhammer 40,000, especially some of my other guy friends like back in college, um, what turned them off most about it was the fact that there were no movies or TV shows about it. There was some video games which were kind of and then there were books. And my two college roommates, one of them was a bit more of a reader. Like he read the entire Harry Potter series, he read the Inheritance Cycle, uh, and he read a few other books. But he was not. He was a bit better of a reader, but he was not like a reader. And then my other college roommate was not a reader at all. And so the minute he was like, "Oh, the main ways to be into this fandom, the main ways to be into Warhammer 40,000 are read the books or play the tabletop game." Well, I'm not gonna play the tabletop game because I don't have the time or the money for that. And then I'm not a big reader, so fuck this fandom. And that's a lot of people. It's sad to say, but in this day and age, a lot of people like reading has gone kind of down the tube. Like a lot of people are not, they're not big readers. So if you have this fandom that's primarily the how do I want to put this? If you have this fandom that is primarily enjoyed through print media, it's going to deter a lot of people. But now that it looks like we're going to be getting a live action TV show or movies, it's going to draw in a lot more people. It's the same thing like with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know. Prior to the movies, you know, you had some children's cartoon animated series that were somewhat enjoyable, especially if like you started watching them as children, you probably still liked them, had like some kind of nostalgic attachment to it into adulthood. But prior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the main way to enjoy Marvel was comics. You have to buy and read comics, and a lot of adult people, young adult to adult people, were like, "I'm not going to do that. I'm not into print media. I want my video games, I want my TV shows, and I want my movies, and that's it." That's most people. So now, if they make this show or these movies, all of those people who had the potential to like Warhammer 40K for what it is, they just needed the right medium to enjoy it in, they're going to latch onto it. And I think that's what you're going to find. I think you're going to find that plenty of people enjoy Warhammer 40,000 the way it is. They just didn't want to read the books and they didn't want to play the tabletop game. But now that they have a live action movie series or TV series to follow, they're going to get into it, regardless of its politically incorrect, very violent, dark content. So, all in all, don't go changing it too much. Just don't. It is the way it is, and it does not need to be changed. So, that being said, that about wraps it up. You know, for this video. I don't really have a lot more to say other than, I mean, I'm excited for it, but I'm a little worried. I don't want them to go changing a lot. So yeah, leave some comments below, get a discussion started. Let me know what you guys think out there about this news. If you have any questions about 40K, like I said, I'm going to try and make some more videos in the future. I'm going to do one kind of just explaining an initial basic rundown of Warhammer 40,000, and then I'm going to do a second one, which is some ways that I think are best to get into Warhammer 40,000. So stay tuned for those. If you like this video, please hit that like button. It really helps out my channel. And if you want to help out my channel even more, check out some of my other videos and maybe subscribe. Other than that, though, I'll talk to you guys later.